She couldn't stand him. From the moment he opened his mouth on the first day of class, Ivy Morgan decided that Aiden Blake was her natural-born enemy. He was arrogant, always raising his hand, always acting like he had the right answer. She sat 2 rows behind him in their literature course at Hamilton University, grinding her teeth every time he quoted Shakespeare like he'd written the lines himself. But the worst part? He was smart, too smart, and everyone loved him for it. She hated how his dark hair felt just right, how his voice somehow made even boring lectures sound like poetry. And most of all, she hated that he challenged her. Because Ivy wasn't quiet. She was brilliant, sharp-tongued, and proud of it. And every time she spoke, Aiden had a counterpoint. Their classmates called it literary war. The professor just called it entertaining. But neither of them found it funny. They were fire and ice, thunder and lightning. And they clashed in every single debate. Until one day, everything changed. Their professor announced a final project. Partners, presentation, 1 grade, and of course, fate, with its cruel sense of humor, paired them together. They stared at each other across the room in stunned horror. "No way," Ivy muttered. "You think I asked for this?" Aiden snapped back. Reluctantly, they agreed to meet at the library that weekend. The first hour was silent, just typing, sighing, and glaring. The second hour, something shifted. Ivy challenged a point in the text. Aiden didn't argue. Instead, he said, "That's a really interesting take. I didn't think of it like that." She blinked, confused. "No snarky comment?" He shrugged. "Not when you're right." For the first time, Ivy didn't hate him. They kept meeting, at the library, at the cafe, and slowly the arguments turned to conversations. She learned that he wasn't arrogant. He was just raised by a father who never told him he was enough. He learned that she wasn't mean. She just didn't want anyone to think she was weak. Walls started to crumble. Smiles started to last longer. Laughter came easier. And one rainy night, as they sat side by side on the library steps, sharing one umbrella and a bag of cold fries, she looked at him and said, "You're not so unbearable, Blake." He smiled. "I'm starting to feel the same about you, Morgan." The presentation came and went. They got the highest grade in the class. But something more important had happened. They had fallen for each other. Not in the way movies show, not with fireworks and music swelling, but in the quiet, everyday moments. In glances held too long. In hands that brushed and lingered. In words spoken softly between 2 people who once swore they'd never get along. A few weeks later, Aiden found her alone under the old oak tree by the campus quad. He walked up nervously, holding a book. "Jane Austen?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. He nodded. "I figured it was time I understood your favorite author properly." She smiled and shook her head. "You're ridiculous." He stepped closer. "But you love me anyway." Ivy paused, then whispered, "Yeah, I do. Love doesn't always begin with butterflies. Sometimes it starts with battle scars, with fire and frustration, and 2 people who are brave enough to look beyond what they thought they hated, to find something beautiful underneath. Enemies by fate, lovers by choice. And in the end, their story wasn't about winning arguments. It was about learning to surrender, not to each other, but to love.